My name is Catherine Lowell. I am 39 years old. I work as a financial analyst in Portland, Oregon. For the past 7 years, I have lived in a constant cycle of fluorescent office lights by day, lecture halls by night, and silent early mornings filled with coffee and spreadsheets. Tonight is supposed to be the culmination of that grind. I am on stage, wearing a navy gown that clings to my shoulders, my cap tugging slightly against my hair. The spotlight is hot enough to bead sweat at the base of my neck, but I don't shift. I keep my chin high. Out beyond the stage edge, I find them, or rather, I find what they left behind. 5 seats with white name cards, the ink curling from the heat of the room. My father's seat, my mother's, my sister's, my brother-in-law's, my nephew's, all vacant. They sit in a neat line of absence, a hollow strip in the middle of a cheering crowd. Parents crane their necks, waving phones. Siblings lean over rows to embrace each other. A few graduates raise bouquets high in the air. None of it touches me. I hear the applause like it is happening underwater. All I can focus on is the faint squeak of plastic chairs shifting and the whisper of the program pamphlet in my own hands. The dean shakes my hand and passes me the diploma case. My name echoes through the hall. The sound is swallowed quickly by the next one. The applause swells and breaks for the graduate behind me. I descend the steps into a tunnel of movement, hands reaching, voices calling, but I move straight through it, unclaimed. My smile is fixed in place, but it feels like holding my breath. Outside, the evening air is a shock, cool with the faint tang of hot pretzels from a food cart parked near the lawn. Street lamps are flickering on, washing the brick pathways in gold. I slip my phone from the pocket of my gown. The screen glares up at me. 52 missed calls from Dad. Just below, a single message. We need to talk. Urgent. The words don't hit like an alarm. They land like something inevitable, like a bill arriving in the mail. Before I can press call, another notification slides across the top of the screen. I tap it, almost without thought. And there it is, my entire family, captured in a glossy, perfectly lit photo. My father, grinning wide, holds a giant pair of gold scissors. My sister Paula stands beside him with a glass of champagne, her arm linked with her husband's. My mother's pearl necklace catches the flash. My nephew clutches a balloon. Above their heads stretches a red banner, Paula's buffet grand opening. The caption thanks friends, customers, and our wonderful family for making the night unforgettable. The timestamp places the photo exactly 15 minutes after I walked on stage to claim my degree. The comment section is full of congratulations, heart emojis, and praise for Paula's big step forward. My thumb hovers over the screen, then I lock it. My heartbeat evens out. I wave down, hop a rideshare at the curb, slide into the back seat, and give the driver the restaurant's address. The car eases away from the curb, the tires whispering over wet asphalt. Outside, graduates cluster under lamplight, hugging, posing, making plans. The city stretches ahead, its skyline smudged with the last streaks of sunset. Inside the car, I am a single, quiet point in motion, holding a degree that nobody I share blood with cared to see me earn. The hum of the engine blends with the faint hiss of tires slicing through damp streets. I sit back, eyes fixed on the window as familiar storefronts slide past. My reflection stares back at me, older than I feel inside, yet sharper. I tell myself I am only going to the flagship restaurant to hear what's urgent. But the moment my father's name lit my phone, the past began unspooling in my head like a reel I've kept locked away. I was 26 the night my family gathered around the oak dining table. It was warm with the smell of roast chicken and lemon from my mother's hand cream. My father unfolded glossy charts, numbers climbing like the slopes of a perfect mountain. This, he said, tapping the paper, is the chance to secure our future. His voice had that practiced warmth he used with investors. My mother squeezed my wrist gently. We take care of each other, you'll see the return. Paula leaned back, all confidence and champagne laughter. Your name's going to be on the new location, she teased, snapping a photo of me with my pen poised. I smiled because that's what you do when your family expects it. I signed the papers that night. The ribbon cutting came fast. Red silk fluttering, the cameras flashing, customers flooding in. The first month was solid, the second dipped. A contractor dispute followed, then a vendor lawsuit. My share of the trust fund was quietly reclassified in the ledger as maintenance reserve. When I asked for a repayment plan, my father said, "Reserves keep families safe," as if that ended the matter. I didn't push. I told myself harmony was worth more than a fight. Still, I kept everything, contracts, statements, every signature, tucked into a blue folder and mirrored in digital backups. I started night classes soon after, diving into finance not just for career advancement, but to understand every trick a ledger can hide. Years later, during a case study on internal fraud, I recognized our numbers almost line for line. I went home, pulled out the blue folder, and began matching dates. The money had moved through a holding company with a rented mailbox. The beneficiary was a friend of Paula's. I built a spreadsheet, each row tightening the noose. I mailed it, anonymous and precise, to the State Financial Crimes Unit. Weeks passed before a polite email arrived from an investigator, asking for clarification on 2 vendor accounts. I replied from a temporary address, my pulse steady. Then I waited. I worked. I said, nothing. Now, the rideshare turns into the restaurant lot. Balloons hang limp under the eaves, rainwater pooling at their knots. The smell of fryer oil and yeast drifts from the propped-open door. Through the glass, I see my father in a tense huddle with a man in a banker's suit. My mother folds napkins at the hostess stand, over and over. Paula paces, phone pressed to her ear, lips moving fast. I step inside, the carpet still damp from a recent mop. My father's face lifts when he sees me, relief and command tangled together. "I knew you'd come," he says. "We're in trouble." It's the same tone he used at that oak table years ago, convincing me to hand over my trust fund. The difference now is that I know the real cost, and this time, the terms will be mine. By the time I reach the center of the dining room, the noise hits me in uneven bursts. Sharp voices, hurried footsteps, the hiss of the coffee machine cycling through another pot nobody will drink. My father is planted at the largest table, leaning forward over a leather-bound folder as though the sheer force of his posture can bend the man across from him. The man wears a charcoal suit and a face trained for unpleasant news. His pen taps a steady rhythm against the paper, a counterpoint to my father's clipped words. "We've been operating under these terms for years," my father says, his tone balanced on the edge of command and disbelief. The banker, because there's no mistaking what he is, keeps his gaze level. Years don't matter when compliance is in question. As of this afternoon, the account is under hold. No transfers, no withdrawals. He speaks with the flat cadence of someone who has delivered this line before, and will again. Across the room, Paula is pacing behind the counter, one hand gripping her phone, the other dragging through her hair. Her voice cuts in and out, half into the phone, half into the air. "We have payroll in 3 days. You understand that, right? 3 days. She spins on her heel, nearly colliding with a waitress carrying a tray of water glasses. The waitress swerves, mutters something under her breath, and disappears toward the kitchen. Staff have gathered in a loose semicircle by the wall, whispering in tight knots. I catch fragments. Accounts frozen. No tips today. Might be the last week. The words float above the clatter of dishes and the low hum of refrigeration units. And then near the register, I notice him. Lucas, a tall, wiry figure in a pale blue shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbow, clipboard tucked under one arm. He's not talking, just watching, eyes flicking between the banker, my father, and a stack of receipts on the counter. His fingers drum once against the edge of the clipboard before stilling. There's something in his stance, alert, calculating, that tells me he's not just another line cook pressed into front-of-house duty. My father slams his palm lightly against the table, not enough to startle, but enough to demand attention. "This is a misunderstanding. Those funds are part of our operational reserves. We have customers expecting service. You can't just—" "I can," the banker interrupts, his voice still even. "And I have. The ledger shows deposits labeled as customer escrow. Those must be traceable to actual customers, with documented disbursements. Until then, the funds remain restricted." Paula snaps her phone shut and joins the table, planting herself beside our father. "The money's clean," she says, too loudly, as if volume can make it true. "We've used it for vendor payments, equipment maintenance." Lucas shifts his weight, steps forward just enough to be noticed. "Not all of it," he says quietly. The room stills for a beat, as though the air itself has leaned in to hear. Paula turns on him. "Excuse me." He doesn't flinch. Some of those transfers went to accounts that aren't vendors. At least not any I've seen in the purchase orders. His eyes move to me briefly, then back to the banker. "If you pull the statements for last quarter, you'll see it." The banker scribbles a note without looking up. My father's face tightens, a muscle jumping in his jaw. "We'll handle our internal review," he says, his voice lower now, almost warning. "Internal reviews don't override banking regulations," the banker replies. "If you can't produce the documentation, the hold becomes permanent. And if the transactions are flagged as misappropriation, you're looking at more than a temporary freeze." Paula's hand drops to her side, the phone dangling uselessly. "This is sabotage," she mutters. Though it's not clear who she thinks the saboteur is, Lucas says nothing more. He steps back toward the register, jotting something on his clipboard. But his earlier words are still hanging in the air, rearranging the shape of the problem for everyone in the room. I stay quiet, watching. The dates and amounts the banker mentions are already familiar. I've seen them before, in a different context, in records I've kept for years. My father's shoulders square, as if bracing for another blow. Paula's pacing starts again, and Lucas glances once more in my direction, just enough to let me know that he understands more than he's letting on. The banker closes the folder with a firm snap. "You have 72 hours to submit complete records. After that, the matter escalates." My father nods stiffly, but his eyes are on me now, searching for something, help, perhaps, or complicity. He won't get the latter. I give him nothing, just a calm, steady look, and the kind of silence that makes people realize you've already decided where you stand. I stay in the far corner of the dining area, leaning against the edge of a counter that smells faintly of lemon cleaner and burned toast. No one notices me standing there. All eyes are fixed on numbers, papers, and half-finished arguments. From this vantage point, I can see more than they think. Not just the tension in my father's shoulders or the way Paula's fingers twitch toward her phone like it's a lifeline, but the patterns. Patterns always tell the real story. A year ago, I learned to trust patterns. It started in the quiet of my apartment, late winter, when tax prep had me sifting through statements. A single transaction caught my eye. A withdrawal from my trust account for a round, even number. Not suspicious on its own, but the memo line was vague. Short-term allocation. I'd seen those words before. I pulled the previous month's statement, then the one before that. Same type of withdrawal, almost the same amount, always a few days before a large deposit appeared in the restaurant's account. And it wasn't seasonal or tied to a specific supplier. It was arbitrary. Most people would have let it go. I didn't. I cross-referenced the dates with business expense filings available online. Vendor payments, utility bills, licensing fees. The deposits from my account never aligned with legitimate expenses. They just padded the numbers. Once I saw the chain, I couldn't unsee it. The trust wasn't just a fallback fund. It had become their silent partner, the partner who never consented. The memory is vivid. The soft hum of my refrigerator in the dark, my laptop screen the only light, spreadsheets open side by side. My fingertips were cold from holding my coffee mug too long without drinking it. There was a strange clarity in that moment, the kind that comes when you realize your family sees you less as a person and more as a line item on a ledger. That's when I made my choice. Confronting them directly would tip them off. They'd bury the trail, change the account labels, maybe even shift the money somewhere harder to trace. So I documented everything. PDF scans of statements, screenshots of deposits, public records bookmarked and saved. I stripped every file of identifying data, scrubbed metadata, renamed documents in generic strings of numbers. And then I sent them, anonymously, to the state's Financial Crimes Division. After that, nothing happened. At least not where I could see it. Months passed. Holidays came and went. We shared dinners, traded obligatory gifts, made small talk like we were all playing roles we'd been cast in years ago. But I knew, and I waited. Back in the present, Lucas catches my attention. He's standing near the register, flipping through a sheaf of receipts. His brow furrowed in thought. Most people might dismiss it as routine, but I see the precision in how he works. Double-checking totals, lining up dates, cross-referencing columns without needing to be told. It occurs to me he might be the only other person in this room who understands exactly what's happening beneath the noise. He glances up just for a second, and there's something in his expression, a question, maybe recognition. I don't give him anything in return, just the faintest nod. Enough to confirm I've noticed him too. The voices around us rise and fall, Paula muttering into her phone in the kitchen, a waitress clinking silverware into a tub. My father's somewhere in the office now, pacing no doubt. But I stay where I am, letting it all wash past me. The real work has already been done. When people think of justice, they imagine loud moments, confrontations, verdicts, news headlines. But the truth is quieter. It can be an email sent from a nameless account, a folder of numbers passed through the right channels. Justice sometimes demands silence, and I've learned how to keep it. Paula finds me in the narrow hallway between the kitchen and the office, her perfume clashing with the sharp tang of bleach from the mop bucket in the corner. She's wringing her hands, a habit she picked up as a teenager whenever she wanted something. "Catherine," she starts, voice low but quick, like she's afraid someone else will hear. "You're good with numbers, with finance. You could help us get through this. You know how to talk to people at banks, how to fix things." Her words are measured, but I hear the strain underneath. The same way you can hear the snap in a rope right before it gives. I study her for a moment, eyes glossed over, hair frizzed at the edges from the heat in the kitchen, one side of her blouse untucked like she got dressed in a hurry. I could say yes. I could step into this mess and untangle it, the way I've done quietly for myself over the years. But that would mean erasing the line I've drawn, the one they've crossed too many times. I remember a night, not long before I moved out, when Paula told me flat out over wine and candlelight, "You've never really been part of this family's business. You don't get what we go through." She said it like a fact, not an insult, but it carved deep. So I answer her now without flinching. "You once told me I wasn't part of this family." I keep my tone level, even soft, but the words are stone. The air between us tightens. She blinks twice, the corners of her mouth twitching before she finds something to say. "That was a different time. I didn't mean—" "You meant it enough," I cut in, not unkindly but with finality. And I listened. Her gaze flicks away, landing somewhere over my shoulder, as if she might find an ally there. All she finds is the stainless steel door to the walk-in cooler. When she looks back, something new has replaced her pleading, fear, sharp and unguarded. It's not fear of me exactly, but of the realization that I won't play the role she's counting on. Before I can move past her, a shadow falls across the doorway. Lucas steps into the hallway, his frame filling it almost entirely. He's holding a small black USB drive between his thumb and forefinger. "You'll want to see this," he says, his voice pitched low enough for only me to hear. Paula turns toward him, confusion knitting her brow. "What is that?" Lucas doesn't look at her. His gaze is fixed on me, steady, unblinking. Something that explains why this place is in deeper trouble than anyone's admitting. I take the drive, feeling the cool plastic against my skin. It's light, barely noticeable in weight, but the way he hands it to me makes it feel heavier than any ledger. "What's on it?" I ask. "Transaction logs," he says. "Internal, off-the-books entries and some correspondence you won't find in the official files. Someone's been moving money in circles." Paula's face drains of color. "You've been spying on us?" "I've been doing my job," Lucas replies evenly, still without looking at her. "Your books don't balance, and if the bank digs one layer deeper, they'll see it too. I'd rather have someone who understands what that means looking at it first." I slide the drive into the pocket of my coat, my fingers curling around it for a moment before letting go. This isn't charity on his part. It's a calculation. He's betting I'll use what's on it. Paula's voice sharpens, panic edging in. "You can't just hand things over like that. Catherine, whatever's on there, it's not the full picture. You have to hear our side before you go making decisions." I meet her eyes. "I've been hearing your side for years. Now I think it's time I saw the rest." Her mouth opens, then closes again, whatever argument she had dissolving in the quiet. I can see her pulse fluttering in her neck, fast and shallow. She takes a small step back, as though distance could undo what's already in motion. Lucas steps aside, letting me pass. I feel his eyes on me as I walk toward the front of the restaurant, the weight of the drive in my pocket like a new heartbeat. There's no rush to plug it in, not yet. Timing matters more than curiosity. And right now, the most important thing is letting them feel the ground shift under their feet, inch by inch. Because boundaries, once set, aren't just lines in the sand, they're walls, and today, I've made mine visible. My apartment is quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak from the radiator. I set my coat on the back of a chair, the USB still in my pocket. For a moment, I just stand there, the weight of it pressing against my thigh like it's asking a question I'm not ready to answer. But hesitation has never uncovered the truth. I slide the drive into my laptop. The screen flickers to life, the folder opening in a neat list of files. Spreadsheets, PDFs, scanned receipts, email chains. The names are deliberately vague, just strings of dates and numbers, but the pattern is obvious if you know what to look for. And I do. The first spreadsheet shows miscellaneous reimbursements, stacked one after another. Amounts just under reporting thresholds, dates that line up with withdrawals I'd already traced from my trust account. The description fields are vague: event costs, family support, seasonal inventory. But the payment destinations tell the truth. Restaurant vendors, personal accounts, even an offshore transfer that's been disguised as a catering partnership. I scroll faster, my stomach tightening as more entries pile up. In one tab, Paula's signature sits under an authorization form for marketing expenses. That went straight to a jewelry boutique. In another, my father signed off on a loan repayment to a holding company I've never heard of. But Lucas has attached the company's registration document, and it's in Paula's name. The air in my apartment feels heavier, pressing against my chest. I click into the email folder. The first chain is between my father and Paula, discussing how to optimize certain transfers. The language is clinical, almost businesslike. But then there's one line from Paula that stops me cold. If anyone asks, we frame it as family resource pooling. Catherine benefits long-term. My pulse jumps. They've been using the idea of family, the supposed bond that should have meant trust and mutual care, as a legal smokescreen to take what's mine. Not just with casual opportunism, but with premeditation. Every signature, every memo line, every euphemism was a brick in the wall they built, to keep me out while making it look like they were letting me in. I lean back in my chair, the glow from the laptop painting the ceiling in pale light. I think about the years I spent believing we were at least aligned in principle, even if we didn't always agree. That the trust account was a safeguard, a piece of my future I didn't have to worry about. I think about the holidays where Paula would hand me a wrapped gift, smile wide, and say, "We take care of our own." The truth is louder than any argument. They took care of themselves first. I open one last file, an internal memo drafted for family members, outlining how withdrawals from the trust could be explained if questioned. The wording is almost laughable now. Family obligations sometimes require collective contribution. These actions strengthen long-term stability. Family obligations. That's what they called draining the fund my grandfather built for me before I could even spell investment. The apartment feels smaller, the quiet sharper. I close the laptop and let the dark settle in, but my mind keeps replaying that line from Paula's email. Framing theft as unity, wrapping deception in the language of love. I stand and walk to the window, the city lights blinking below like a silent metronome. Across the street, a couple laughs as they fumble with grocery bags, their voices carrying just enough for me to hear the warmth in them. It's the sound of a bond built on something real. I wonder, when my family decided ours was expendable. A part of me wants to call Paula right now, to ask her if she can say those words to my face without choking on them. But another part, the stronger part, knows that confrontation is only worth it if you choose the timing. I return to the table, pick up the USB, and slip it into a small fireproof lockbox I keep under the sink. It joins a growing stack of files, statements, and photographs, each piece a tile in the mosaic I've been quietly building. The urge to act is strong, but the need to act smart is stronger. Some truths are meant to be shouted. Others, you let sit in the dark until the right moment comes to turn on the light. Tonight, I choose the dark. But the light is coming. My phone buzzes just after 9 in the morning, its vibration rattling across the kitchen counter. The caller ID is my father's name, Richard Lowell, flashing in block letters. For a second, I consider letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity edges out caution, and I answer. "We need you," he says without preamble. His voice is lower than usual, stripped of its usual authority, the kind of tone people use when they're trying not to admit they're asking for help. I let the silence stretch just long enough for him to feel it. "That's a change," I say evenly. "This isn't the time for sarcasm, Catherine," he replies, and I can almost picture him pinching the bridge of his nose the way he does when things aren't going his way. "The bank's still holding our accounts. We can't make payroll next week. Vendors are threatening to walk. You know how to negotiate with them, get them to see reason." "What's in it for me?" The words come out calm, almost casual, but I feel the shift in the air even through the phone line. He hesitates. "We're family." I lean back against the counter, eyes narrowing at the weak appeal. That line doesn't work anymore. I pause just long enough for the point to land. "You want me involved? Here's the price. You repay every dollar from my trust fund, in full, and you transfer 15% of the restaurant's equity to me. Papers signed before I lift a finger." There's a long beat of quiet, just his breathing on the line, then sharp. 15%? That's absurd. "It's the cost of your rescue," I say, "and it's still cheaper than losing everything when the bank finishes its audit." He exhales, the sound ragged. "We'll talk about it." "No," I correct. "You'll decide. Then we'll talk." I hang up before he can respond. The satisfaction is sharp but fleeting. I know this isn't over. It's just the first move in a game that's been years in the making. By late afternoon, there's a knock at my door. When I open it, my mother is standing there, clutching her coat closed against the wind. Helen Lowell is not a woman who visits without warning. She steps inside without waiting for an invitation, glancing around my apartment as though she's never really seen it before. "You've been busy," she says, her voice soft but edged. "I work," I reply, "and I manage my life without taking from other people's pockets." Her eyes flick to mine, holding. "Richard told me about your conditions." I cross my arms. "Demands. Let's call them what they are." She sighs, moving toward the small table by the window. "Do you think you're punishing us? Is that what this is about, some kind of reckoning?" I sit across from her, keeping my voice steady. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm reclaiming what's mine. There's a difference." Helen studies me for a moment, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "It's still family money. Your grandfather meant for it to benefit all of us." "My grandfather set it aside for me," I correct. "And somehow, over the years, benefit all of us turned into benefit everyone but me." She flinches, just slightly, but enough for me to see it. "I've watched you and Dad make choices that put your comfort ahead of my future. I stayed quiet longer than I should have, thinking there'd be some natural point where you'd make it right. That point never came, so here we are." She leans back, eyes narrowing. "And you think taking ownership of part of the restaurant will make things right?" "It's not about making things right," I say. "It's about securing leverage so no one can rewrite the rules again without me at the table." For a moment, neither of us speaks. Outside, a siren wails faintly, then fades into the distance. Finally, Helen rises, smoothing the front of her coat. "I'll talk to your father," she says, her tone unreadable. "But you should think about what it means to burn bridges in your own family." I stand too, opening the door for her. "Sometimes," I say quietly, "the bridge is already ash. You just stop pretending it's still there." She steps out into the hallway without another word. I watch her go, the sound of her heels clicking down the tile until it disappears. When I close the door, the apartment feels colder, but underneath that chill is something steady, resolve. The first round is over, and for the first time, the balance of power is tilting my way. 3 days later, I'm sitting in a back booth of the restaurant, a manila folder between us. Richard's expression is tight, jaw set as he slides the signed papers across the table. His pen is still uncapped, resting against the page like it might spring back to life and retract his signature. 15% equity, he says flatly, and a full accounting of the trust repayment schedule. Paid quarterly until the balance is zero. I pull the folder closer, my eyes scanning the black ink. The legal language is solid, ironclad even, and my name is there, bold against the white. For a moment, I just trace the letters, with my gaze letting the reality sink in. After years of being talked around and over, I finally have a seat at the table. Good, I say, signing my part with one deliberate stroke. I cap the pen and set it down between us. Now we begin. Paula hovers a few feet away, pretending to rearrange sugar packets. Her eyes keep flicking toward the folder like she's waiting for it to burst into flames. I don't bother looking up. You'll both receive an email from me by the end of the day outlining the new structure, I say. Payroll stays, but any expenses over $2,000 need my co-signature. Vendor contracts get reviewed, line by line, before a single check is cut. Richard bristles, but he doesn't argue, not yet. By the afternoon, I'm in the small upstairs office, the one that smells faintly of burnt coffee and copier toner. The desk is cluttered, stacks of unpaid invoices, a half-empty water bottle, 3 different staplers. I roll up my sleeves and start sorting, creating neat piles that reveal the scope of the chaos. Some of the invoices are laughable. A team retreat at a beach resort 2 states away. Catering orders double what the head count required. Equipment leases for machines the restaurant doesn't even own. The patterns I'd seen in the USB files are right here in physical form. Only now I have the authority to stop them before they ever leave the desk. Around 4, Lucas appears in the doorway. He's holding a clipboard and a mug that's seen better days. How's the first day as part owner, he asks, leaning lightly against the frame. Efficient, I say, without looking up from the ledger I'm reviewing. Or at least it will be once I clear out the mess. He steps inside, setting the mug on the corner of the desk. You're going to ruffle feathers. They've had a long run with no one checking their math. That ends now. I glance up, meeting his gaze. And thank you for the USB. Lucas's mouth curves just slightly. That was only the surface, he says, voice low enough that it barely carries over the hum of the old computer fan. I pause, pen hovering over the page. Meaning? He shifts the clipboard under his arm. Meaning there's something you should see, but this isn't the right moment. Timing matters, and right now you're still laying groundwork. If you move too fast, they'll close ranks before you've got all the leverage. The words settle in my mind like a small, heavy stone. So you're telling me to wait. I'm telling you not to waste your first move on a partial reveal, he says, heading back toward the door. I'll let you know when it's time. I watch him go, the sound of his footsteps fading down the hall. It's strange. He's only been here a few months, yet he's the one person who's spoken to me without the usual mix of defensiveness and calculation. Turning back to the desk, I make another note in the ledger, circling an inflated invoice with a firm stroke. The urge to press Lucas for more information is strong, but he's right about one thing. Timing is leverage, and I've only just secured my place. By the time I lock the office for the night, the stacks are smaller, the desk clearer. Outside, the restaurant's neon sign hums faintly in the cooling air. There's still noise inside, Paula laughing too loudly at something a server says, my father's voice low in the kitchen. But the sound feels different now. Less like an unshakable wall, more like a current I've started to redirect. The shift has begun. And for the first time in years, I'm the one holding the current's course. The first meeting with my new authority takes place in the cramped upstairs office, its single window casting a cold rectangle of light across the table. Richard sits at the far end, arms folded, his face set in stone. Paula is beside him, phone in hand, tapping the screen as if scrolling can keep her from hearing what's coming. Lucas stands near the filing cabinet, silent but observant. I lay out a neat stack of papers in front of me. We're restructuring, I say, my voice calm but deliberate. Effective immediately, all non-essential contracts are terminated. That includes the catering arrangement with Burke's Events, the linen service from Gold Thread, and the seasonal marketing consultant you've been using since last spring. Paula's head snaps up. Those are our people. We've been working with them for years. And they've been overcharging you for just as long, I reply, sliding an invoice toward her. Burke's billed 20% over market rates. Gold Thread charges for pickups they don't make. And the consultant hasn't delivered a single campaign on schedule. That stops now. Richard shifts in his chair but doesn't speak. He knows the numbers are real. Paula pushes the invoice back toward me. You can't just, I cut in. 15% equity and co-signature authority. That means any contract over $2,000 requires my approval. These fail that test. I reach for the top sheet on the stack, termination letters already drafted and ready to send. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. The only sound is the steady hum of the old ceiling fan. Lucas hands me a pen. I sign the first letter, then the second, my signature clean and precise. Each stroke is a small reclaiming of ground I'd been told wasn't mine to stand on. Paula's phone screen goes dark in her hand. She places it face down on the table. "You don't understand how this will look," she says finally, her voice tight. "These people are part of the community. They talk." "I'm counting on it," I say. "Let them talk about a business that runs clean, pays fair, and doesn't bleed money into friendships masquerading as contracts." Richard's eyes flick. Between us, his silence saying more than words could. He knows Paula's fight isn't about the vendors. It's about losing the unspoken privileges she's grown used to. I slide the signed letters into a folder, seal it, and place it on the corner of the desk. "Lucas, have these delivered today. Certified mail." "Yes, ma'am," he says. And there's the faintest edge of approval in his tone. Paula leans back, crossing her arms. "You're enjoying this." I meet her gaze. "Number, I'm ensuring this place survives long enough for the people who actually work for it to keep their jobs. If that feels personal to you, maybe it's because you've made it personal." The room is quiet again, the kind of quiet that carries weight. I pick up the last letter, the one terminating the overpriced supply deal Paula negotiated last year. The contract is lopsided. Late fees favor the vendor, quality control clauses are non-existent. Cutting it will save thousands in the first quarter alone. I sign it slowly, feeling her eyes on me. She doesn't speak this time. "Meeting adjourned," I say, standing and gathering the folders. Richard rises, muttering something about checking the kitchen. Paula stays seated. Her stillness is the sharpest thing in the room. For a moment, I just watch her. There's no smirk, no snide remark, only the rigid line of her shoulders and the set of her jaw. It's the first time I've seen her without an immediate counterstrike. She's realizing that the old order, her order, isn't untouchable anymore. I leave her there, the signed letters between us like a line she can't cross back over. As I step into the hallway, the air feels lighter. Not warm, not yet, but clear. Downstairs, the dining room hums with the usual midday noise. Clinking silverware, low conversation, the occasional burst of laughter. It's ordinary, almost serene. But I know upstairs, in that small office, the ground has shifted. And for the first time, I'm the one who moved it. The office is quieter after Paula leaves, but not empty. Lucas is still by the filing cabinet, one hand resting lightly on the top drawer as if he's debating whether to open it. His eyes follow me as I gather the last of the paperwork. "You have a minute?" he asks, his voice low enough that it doesn't travel beyond the doorway. I nod, motioning for him to close the door. The latch clicks, sealing us off from the muffled clatter of the kitchen below. He hesitates, glancing toward the frosted window, then back at me. I've been holding something back, not because I wanted to, but because I wasn't sure who I could trust. The way he says it makes me straighten in my chair. "Go on." He steps forward, setting a small flash drive on the desk between us. It's the same kind of plastic and metal shell you'd find in any office supply store, but the weight of it feels heavier than its size suggests. "I used to handle the monthly reconciliations," he says. "About a year ago, Richard asked me to adjust some numbers. At first, it was small, rounding down an expense here, moving an income line to a different category. But then it got bigger. Whole invoices disappeared. Vendor payments were duplicated. And when I tried to flag it, he told me to make it match whatever he handed me." My stomach tightens. "And you did?" His jaw works, like he's chewing over the answer. I didn't know what else to do. I needed the job, and he made it clear I wouldn't get a reference if I left. I told myself it was temporary, just until I figured out how to get out. I reach for the drive, turning it in my fingers. "What's on here?" "Copies of the spreadsheets, the original numbers and the doctored ones. Every change he had me make. I kept backups, encrypted, just in case. If anyone ever accused me of being part of it, I wanted proof." I look at him, really look. He's young, mid-20s maybe, but there's a steadiness in his gaze that tells me he's been carrying this for a while. "You know this could blow the whole thing open," I say. "That's why I'm giving it to you," he replies. "You're the only one with enough leverage to do something about it without getting steamrolled." For a long moment, I don't speak. The hum of the ceiling fan fills the room, and the faint aroma of coffee drifts up from downstairs. I think about the years I spent watching my father make decisions that benefited everyone but me, and how easily he wrapped it all in the language of family loyalty. I set the drive down carefully. You realize, if this goes to the wrong hands, you could be implicated, even with proof you were following orders. He shrugs, but it's the kind of shrug that's more about resignation than indifference. I'd rather tell the truth now than keep lying. I lean back, folding my arms. Then here's what we're going to do. We're not just fixing the books, we're making them bulletproof. Every transaction, every vendor, every payroll entry will be accurate to the cent. No backdoors, no shadow accounts. His eyebrows lift slightly. And Richard, if he wants a fight, we'll give him one he can't win. But we'll do it by the book. That way, when the time comes, it's not just our word against his, it's the truth, in black and white. Lucas exhales, a small, almost imperceptible release of tension. I can work with that. I slide the flash drive into my blazer pocket. Good. First step. Pull last quarter's numbers. Start reconciling them against the bank statements. I want a clean baseline before we touch anything else. On it, he says, already moving toward the door. He pauses with his hand on the knob. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. I was starting to think no one would ever push back. I don't answer right away. There's a flicker of something in my chest. Recognition, maybe. I've been the one waiting for someone to speak up before, and I know how long that wait can feel. Then let's make it count, I say finally. He nods once and slips out, leaving me alone with the faint click of the closing door. I take the flash drive from my pocket, holding it in my palm. It's small, unremarkable, but it's leverage. And in the world my father built, leverage is currency. For the first time since stepping into this office, I feel like I'm not just reacting, I'm steering. And that changes everything. The morning air is crisp, the kind that makes your lungs feel cleaner just for breathing it in. Outside the restaurant, a modest crowd gathers. Neighbors, a few curious locals, 2 photographers from the town's weekly paper. No champagne tower, no exploding confetti, no overproduced ribbon-cutting ceremony. Just a length of red satin stretched between 2 brass posts and a pair of scissors resting in my hand. Richard stands to my left, his posture rigid, his smile more for the cameras than the people. His suit looks new, but the way he keeps shifting his weight from foot to foot betrays a restless energy he can't hide. I let the moment breathe, eyes sweeping over the storefront. The new sign gleams in the early sunlight, its clean lettering replacing the gaudy script Paula had insisted on. The windows sparkle, Lucas made sure of that. And through the glass, I catch glimpses of the staff in crisp uniforms, their movements efficient, purposeful. The photographers call for us to hold still. I lift the scissors, the metal cool against my fingers. There's no applause when the blades shear through the ribbon, just the sharp snip that cuts the air in two. For me, that's enough. The cameras click. One of the photographers crouches low, framing me against the restaurant's facade. Richard's face turned just enough that his forced smile becomes obvious. Later, I'll see that shot on the front page of the local paper. I'll keep the clipping, not because I need the recognition, but because it's the first image of me standing here without feeling like an intruder. Inside, the dining room smells of fresh bread and brewed coffee, not grease and panic. The hum of quiet conversation drifts from the first guests who've already settled into booths. I move through the space slowly, greeting customers, shaking hands. Richard follows, his words more rehearsed than mine, but I don't correct him. Let him play his role. When we reach the back office, Lucas is there, standing beside the new point-of-sale terminal. Systems synced and ready, he says. Every transaction's tracked in real time. No more blind spots. I nod. Good. Let's keep it that way. By the time I leave that afternoon, the sun is lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the parking lot. The ribbon lies discarded in the trash bin by the door, its frayed ends curling inward like something finally exhaled. I drive home with the window down, letting the cool air wash over me. The reopening wasn't a celebration, it was a reclamation. And that's worth more than any champagne toast. The first call from my mother comes 3 days later. Her voice is tentative, lighter than I remember, as if she's feeling her way through unfamiliar terrain. She asks about the restaurant, about whether the staff is settling in. She doesn't mention the graduation. I don't bring it up. She calls again the following week, and the week after that. Each time, the conversations stretch a little longer. She talks about her garden, about the neighbor's new dog, about the church bake sale. It's surface level, safe, but it's more than she's offered me in years. I listen, answer when needed, and keep my guard where it is. Paula, on the other hand, stays silent. No calls, no texts, not even a polite nod when we cross paths in the restaurant. She avoids eye contact, always finding a reason to step into the kitchen or out to the dining room when I'm near. I could push, but I don't. Distance can be its own statement. One late afternoon, as I'm reviewing the weekly reports, Lucas appears at the doorway. He's holding a manila folder, his expression unreadable. "This just came in from the auditor's backlog," he says, setting it on my desk. "Thought you'd want to see it yourself?" The folder is thin, but the weight in my hands feels heavier than paper should. Inside, neatly clipped together, are receipts and ledger entries from the months leading up to the restaurant's previous shutdown. The numbers are clear: a large withdrawal from the General Operations Fund, routed through a secondary account before landing in a personal checking account under Paula's name. Beneath that, a line item: catering, event expense. The date matches my graduation day. The amount covers not just food, but decorations, live music, and a full bar tab. I close the folder slowly, pressing my palm against the cover as if that might keep the anger from spilling out. The image comes unbidden: 5 empty chairs at the ceremony, their absence more vivid than the rows of smiling faces around them. And somewhere across town, laughter over champagne flutes, music spilling into the street. My name unspoken. Lucas watches me carefully. It's solid proof. No gray areas. If you want to take it further, I know what it is, I interrupt, my voice even but tight. And I know exactly what it means. For a moment, neither of us speaks. The hum of the office lights is loud in the stillness. I slide the folder into the locked drawer at my side, turning the key with a deliberate twist. "Thank you," I say finally. Lucas nods once and leaves, the door closing softly behind him. I lean back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. There's a thin line between justice and vengeance, and right now, I can feel my toes curling around it. Paula may think her silence shields her, but silence can be evidence too. Outside, the late sun casts a warm glow across the street, but in here, the air feels cooler. I tell myself I'll wait, that timing matters, that rushing this would give her the chance to paint herself as the victim. But the truth is, part of me wants her to see it coming. The office door clicks shut behind me. Paula sits across the desk, arms folded tight, as if crossing them could block what's coming. I place the manila folder in the center of the desk, sliding it toward her without a word. She hesitates, eyes darting from my face to the folder and back again. When she finally flips it open, her lips part in a shallow breath. Her fingers hover over the receipts and ledger pages, trembling just enough to make the paper whisper. The silence stretches, taut and heavy. "You pulled $22,000 from the operating fund," I say evenly, "and routed it into your personal account. Then you used it to throw a party, the same day I was graduating." Paula's throat works as she swallows. "It wasn't like that," she says, voice thin. I keep my gaze on her. "The numbers don't bend, Paula. They're clean. They tell their own story." Her eyes glisten, but she doesn't look away. "I thought—" She stops, takes in a shaky breath. "I thought you'd never really need it. You were already doing your own thing. You thought wrong," I cut in, not raising my voice. "And you didn't just take money. You took the choice away from me. You decided what mattered for me. That's not family. That's theft dressed up as loyalty." The first tear slips down her cheek. "I didn't think it would matter to you," she whispers. "I thought you didn't care about any of this anymore." The door bursts open before I can answer. My niece, Paula's daughter, bounds in, clutching a crayon drawing. She stops short when she sees us, sensing the weight in the room. Her big eyes look from her mother to me. "Is this your office?" she asks, holding up the paper. Then, almost as an afterthought, "Aunt Catherine, was your graduation fun?" Mommy said she was sorry she couldn't go. My chest tightens, Paula's head drops, a small sob escaping before she can stop it. I kneel to take the drawing, forcing my voice steady. It was important, I say, choosing the word carefully. And maybe someday I'll tell you all about it. She beams, apparently satisfied, and skips out, the door clicking shut again. When I straighten, Paula's tears are flowing freely. I didn't mean to hurt you, she says, voice breaking. I thought you had moved past needing us. I slide the folder back toward me, locking it away in the desk drawer. I don't need anyone who believes loyalty is optional. But I also don't need revenge, not the kind that destroys what's left. Her gaze lifts, searching for something in my face, maybe forgiveness. I offer none, but I also don't slam the door. I leave her with her silence, knowing it will echo longer than my words ever could. A month passes before I hear from her again. No calls, no texts, just a small padded envelope in the mail, her handwriting slanted across the front. I almost set it aside, but curiosity wins. Inside, there's a folded card, the kind you find in the thinking of you aisle. Soft watercolor flowers on the cover. No glitter, no embossed gold. A single photograph slips out with it, landing face up on my desk. It's my graduation day. The angle is wide, the crowd blurred into indistinct shapes. I'm on the stage, hand outstretched toward the dean, my cap slightly askew. Even in the distance, you can see the smile, the one I wore for the cameras, not for anyone in the audience. I turn the card over in my hands before opening it. Inside, in Paula's familiar looping script, is a single line. I wish I had been there that day. No explanations, no excuses, no promises. I stare at the words, the still image of that empty space where my family should have been. My first instinct is to toss it in the drawer with the other loose ends I never intend to tie up. Instead, I set the photograph on the corner of my desk, just beside the lamp. It stays there through late nights of ledger reviews and early mornings when the light slants through the blinds in the same warm hue as that day. Sometimes I catch myself glancing at it, wondering if her regret is genuine or just another shade of self-preservation. But I don't respond. Some truths don't need to be met halfway. Some lessons only take root when the silence is left undisturbed. In the weeks that follow, I notice subtle changes. Paula's tone with the staff softens. She stops contesting every decision I make, even the small ones. She lingers less in the dining area and more in the kitchen, where the noise swallows any attempt at small talk. The photo remains where I placed it, not as a reminder of what I lost, but as proof of what I learned. That absence can speak louder than presence, and that sometimes the clearest message comes without a single word exchanged. Some memories never fade, they just change their weight. Mine used to crush me. Now, it feels different. I'm sitting at a long table in the private dining room of the restaurant. The lights are softer here, the kind that turns polished wood into something warm. The chairs are filled, mostly. My mother sits across from me, speaking quietly to one of the servers about the dessert menu. My father is at the far end, pretending to check his phone while listening to every word. Paula is absent tonight, claiming she's home with a cold. There's a gap in the seating chart where she would have been, but the rest of the seats are taken. Lucas is here, telling a story that has the newer staff laughing. The line cook, Maria, joins in, waving her fork for emphasis. Even the bartender, off duty for once, pulls up a chair with a plate balanced on his lap. I glance at the space beside me, where my niece sits swinging her legs under the table, her plate of fries untouched while she colors in a paper placemat. She leans over to show me a half-finished rainbow. "I'll add the last color later," she says. "But it's already looking good, right?" I smile. It's better than good. In my mind, I see the 5 empty chairs from my graduation day, lined up like punctuation marks in a sentence no one wanted to finish. That absence had been the loudest thing in the room. Now, here, there's still a missing piece, but it's not the same. The difference is choice. I'm not waiting for anyone to arrive anymore. My gaze shifts toward the far wall, where a new frame hangs between 2 landscape paintings. It's my master's degree, the one I earned quietly while building this business back into something worth keeping. The glass catches the light every time someone walks past, and I like that it does. It's not there to show off, it's there to remind me. The conversation at the table rises and falls. silverware clinking against plates, bursts of laughter punctuating the hum. I take it in like a photograph, one worth keeping, even if not everyone is in it. I've heard people say revenge is sweet. They're wrong. Revenge burns hot, then turns bitter. I never wanted that. I didn't strike back to hurt them. I drew a line and reclaimed what was mine. That's not revenge, that's balance. The restaurant ledger for this month sits open on my desk, the numbers crisp in neat columns. Lucas knocks once before stepping inside. "You might want to see this," he says, setting the latest financial report in front of me. I scan the page. The profit margin is higher than it's ever been, record-breaking since the reopening. No loopholes, no creative math, just honest numbers. Lucas smiles, that rare kind that reaches his eyes. "You did it," he says. I close the folder, resting my hand on top. Outside the window, people pass on the sidewalk, their conversations floating just beyond the glass. They don't know this story. They don't need to. I know it, and I know I've won. Not in a way that needs cheering, but in a way that lets me breathe deeper. I watch the street for a while longer, letting the hum of the city settle into the quiet of the office. Before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with this. Where are you watching from? Is it a quiet morning with a warm cup of coffee? Or a late night where stories like this keep you company? Let us know in the comments. We read everyone with gratitude. If this story touched you, please consider subscribing to the channel, not just to hear more stories like this, but to be part of a community that still believes in kindness, healing, and second chances. Thank you for spending your time with us today. Wherever you are, I hope you carry this story with you. And remember, sometimes the miracle doesn't knock on your door. It waits quietly until you're ready to open your heart. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.